Okay, we've reached our appointed hour to start, so I'd like to welcome everyone this evening and go ahead and get the meeting started. The first thing to do after calling to order is recognize the leadership team members who are here tonight. We have several people absent for various reasons, so we're not going to go through that, but we will go through who is here. So Chief Lilly, if you just briefly describe your role.
Yep. My name is Michael Anthal. I'm the Deputy Chief with El Dorado Hills Fire, and I represent the Public Safety Group. So any public safety concerns, I try and connect them to the appropriate group to resolve them.
Good. Cindy?
I'm Cindy Munt. I'm Supervisor Heidal's assistant, and I do the community information and outreach for the community council.
I'm John Heidel, District 1 Supervisor. And then following that, we also recognize District 1 Commissioners or committee members who are present. And Tita, would you recognize yourself and what your role is?
Tita Bladen, I'm the El Dorado County Commission on Aging, and I'm also just newly sworn in as the senior assembly member from the California Senior Legislature. We're a nonpartisan volunteer group, but we're proposing policy and legislation through the California legislature.
So you hit your little button on this one if you don't mind. That'll turn you on. Sorry, that was my.
Is it button for you?
Okay.
So
You talk to.
Tita Bladen, Commission on Aging, El Dorado County, and also newly appointed as the senior assembly person from for the California Senior Legislature, which was a volunteer, nonpartisan body, but we advocate for policy and legislation through the California Legislature, and we have several proposals that we're going to be promoting this coming legislating year through the regular Assembly and Senate.
Good. So John Davey, I see you've joined us as part of the leadership team. Would you please recognize yourself?
Oh, good evening. John Davey. I'm the chair of the El Dorado Hills Area Planning Advisory Committee. We're a group of resident volunteers who examine proposed development projects in El Dorado Hills and provide feedback to applicants, the planning department, planning commission, and the board of supervisors.
Thank you, John. I also see we have Raylene Nunn with us, who's also on the Commission on Aging. Can we allow her to speak?
Yes. Just unmute Raylene if you can.
Okay.
Is that Raylene? No. Okay.
no.
We've got
Maybe she
Wendy
doesn't want to
May
speak.
there, too.
Okay, so let's go
Hi.
to Wendy. Hi, oh, there you are. Good, you found it.
I found the button.
There you go.
Hi. Yeah, I'm Raylene Nunn in the dark here. And I'm Commission on Aging. I'm Mr. Heidel's appointed commissioner. And I'm also, as Tita said, with a senator, California Senior Legislature. And if I a little bit later, I'd just like to express my gratitude for what Supervisor Heidel and Cindy did last Thursday at our local Lakeview Elementary School, and show appreciation for what they did for our veterans. It was wonderful, their
Yeah, thank you.
contribution.
Great event, Raylene. That was really enjoyable to attend and see all the kids' bright faces and listen to them sing. And that was just a great presentation and program. So thank you for that. Wendy May, are you
Yes.
on?
Yes,
Great.
thank you, Supervisor Heidel, fellow commissioners, and those in attendance. Proud to serve as your director of the Tax Assessor Appeals Board.
Thank you. And anybody else? Oh yeah, John Rassler, you want to recognize yourself. You got your hand up, please. Okay, and then he muted. You're muted, John. So if you can turn your
You got it
microphone down.
now.
There you go. All right.
All right. John Rasslier, El Dorado County Ombudsman, advocate for seniors in assisted living facilities in the county. That's me.
Thank you, John, for all of your service as well. So All right, we'll move on to item 2, because I think we've completed the list, right?
Yes.
All right, well, let me just also mention, we will have 2 new members joining us as leadership team members at our next meeting. Kathy Guerrero, who will be representing Healthy Communities, and she's been very involved with First Five for many, many years, has worked with the county and the Office of Education on a number of programs that aren't just for young kids, but also a lot of the activities that go on our library hubs. So I think she's going to provide a lot of additional information in terms of things that are happening countywide to try to communicate and have mobile services available to some of the individuals in the more rural parts of the county. So we'll welcome Kathy when she's able to attend next month. And then also Lauren Sumitomo, we've added a youth commissioner this year because we recognize that between the leadership team members, we had pretty good representation on the various types of activities related to our strategic plan, but we weren't hearing the voice of the youth. And so we've invited one of the Oak Ridge High School youth commissioners who serves the county to also be our communication eyes and ears for what's going on at Oak Ridge High School in particular. And so she'll be joining us and periodically presenting some updates and information on what's going on at the high school and related other local schools. So look forward to that when she's able to come on board. Item 2, adoption of the regular meeting agenda. Do any of the leadership team members have any proposed changes? Okay, then we'll accept, not seeing anybody with hands up or anything, we'll accept the agenda as submitted. Public comment, item 3. This is the opportunity that we want to make sure that anyone who would like to address the leadership team of the community council on an item that's not on tonight's agenda is welcome to do so. And if you'd please voluntarily identify yourself, we'd appreciate that. So what happened? He had his hand up before.
I lowered it.
Okay.
Joel and Don.
Okay, so let's do members of the public in the conference room first. So. Yeah.
All right. Well, good afternoon, council. I appreciate this opportunity to come completely unannounced and share some information and some data with you guys regarding crime that's happening in my community of Lake Forest. And I say crime, it's vehicle code violations that are occurring. Nothing new to the council or anyone in this room, and I realize that it's happening all over the nation. However, it's where my kid goes to school, so I share a particular interest in it. First off, I want to say, I want to give credit to Wendy May. She's the one that brought me into this wonderful community of ours, so I wanted to acknowledge her and say hi, Wendy. And also the fact that she was part of the inspiration for me to get involved in my community, to which, and I feel I need to stress that I'm here as the Lake Forest Owners Association president, and that is the only title that I will hold tonight, despite other titles that I may have that you may or may not be aware of. When I took over as the Lake Forest Owners Association master president from Ray Myers, we had purchased a speed sign that we were contemplating where to install. We ended up installing it right when I came on as president on southbound Francisco Drive, just south of Marina Park Drive, on your way towards El Dorado Hills Fire Station 84. At the time, it was displaying some errant messages. It was flashing when you weren't speeding, so I researched on how to properly program the sign. I had heard that you can program it, and just recently had enough time to actually sit down and talk to one of their representatives, take a conference, and figure out how to program the sign. So I programmed it to only flash when you're speeding and to give very distinct notices that you were traveling too fast when it got in excess of 60 miles an hour. Speed limit there is 40 miles an hour. What I learned during this process was that there's actually data collected on this speed sign, and it's very specific to the amount of cars traveling through, days of the week, times of the day. The only data that it does not capture is vehicle information, any identifiers. It does not capture driver's or vehicle license plates. It does not capture any photos of the vehicle or anyone inside. What I found was that, as you can imagine, and it's very transparent in these reports, is that a lot of people are speeding, and excessively and recklessly at some point. So that is what I came Again, it's purely informational. I came to share it with all of you. And it's broken down. You can run various reports on this speed sensor radar. I ran 2 different report periods from October 3rd to November 6th, and then from October 24th to November 20th. If you reference the handout that I gave you, you'll see that the first series of columns basically gives you an average vehicles count. Nothing spectacular there. There's no rhyme or reason. The first reporting period, there was a high volume on Friday. The second reporting period, there's a high volume on Monday. So I can't deduce anything out of that. The next set of columns shows that the average speed going through that stop sign is 32 miles an hour. If you're familiar with that area, it's on a descent, a downhill descent, and it's just prior to kind of a sweeping turn there before the fire station. Not great visibility going through that turn. It's kind of a dangerous stretch of roadway, in my humble opinion. The next series of columns is what is really eye-opening for me, is that this basically breaks down the number of speed violations. I set any violation of 41 plus miles per hour. And this shows you that the most vehicles traveling through there are breaking that speed limit. And then in the next set of columns, you see that the percent of speed violations, meaning the percentage of everyone traveling through there that is going 41 miles an hour or greater, is 43%. In my opinion, that's pretty significant. Total vehicles count by speed range, that just shows you that a majority of the cars that are passing through for both periods are traveling 41 to 45 miles per hour, 30,311 in the first period, 17,504 in the second period. So a majority of cars are breaking the law, essentially. And then breaks it down to 73% of those traveling through at that speed are breaking the law. The H denotes the highest value in that particular column. And then finally, what was extremely concerning to me is on the next page, it shows you how many vehicles are traveling within the various mile per hour ranges. You'll see that a significant amount are traveling 56 to 60 miles per hour, with the second group of vehicles traveling 61 through 65 miles per hour in a 40 mile per hour zone. It should be noted that I receive an email notification every time someone exceeds 60, and that I also set the speed sign to not display the speed when you're traveling over 60 so that we don't have people going for high score in that particular area. As of yesterday, actually 2 days ago, I received an alert that someone was traveling 68 miles per hour southbound Francisco. And I just envisioned someone losing control, especially on a rainy day, and plowing into, God forbid, the fire station there. So I don't like to come with problems and no solutions. Supervisor Hadal, I appreciate you meeting with me in the past, along with the fire chief, Mr. Johnson, and discussing some potential solutions. I would like to revisit the speed bump or traffic calming of that corridor, the Francisco corridor. But I would also like to suggest increased patrols of CHP and El Dorado Hills or El Dorado County Sheriff in that area. I've been in contact with Lieutenant Hatfield with Placerville Division of the Highway Patrol, and I've expressed my desire to get his people there. But more importantly, we can't have vehicles there staffed by, and no disrespect to anyone, by volunteers of the community. We have to have actual uniforms in those vehicles, and we have to send a very direct message by issuing citations for speed violations. And I won't even get into the stop sign violations, which are a whole nother presentation. But that is my ask, is that we have the increased patrols and we start sending a very clear message and writing people tickets, because I think that's the only thing that's going to get through to these reckless drivers that are endangering our children out there.
Thank you, Dan, for the data presentation. I don't think you mentioned your name, and I didn't know if you
Oh,
wanted to.
Dan Danelli,
There
sorry.
you go. Okay, no problem with that. So, because we have had conversations with the CHP, and the thing they've always advised me is if you can tell us the timeframes when the most violations occur, they will make an extra effort to try to get somebody out there. So if the data you're collecting says that those stop signs are being run primarily, from 6 PM to 8 PM or something or other, they can send somebody out there. If it's random, it's a little bit tougher to do. But if there are nuggets of information you can pull out of that, I think they would be very receptive to trying to make sure periodically they get an officer out there to see what's going on. The difficulty is they can't be there all the time, right? I mean, you know that being in law enforcement, that's a tough thing to do no matter what you're doing. But I think the more awareness that's made available, and that's what you've done with this data, it isn't just conjecture. When you get actual facts and understand the speeds and understand the number of stop signs that are being run, then that's something that I think we all need to respond to, because the safety of our children, the wildlife. I mean, it was just a deer hit, I guess, on that end of Francisco Road. And fortunately was able to evidently get off the roadway, and where it went, whether it survived or not is unknown. But there's been a lot of deer in particular that have been hit along that stretch. And you would think that if people would slow down or at least be at the speed limit, the probability of hitting a deer accidentally is reduced. It can still happen. You're not going to eliminate it, but that's the other part. It's just preserving our wildlife that's out there, as well as the safety of our kids and any pedestrian or bicyclist. So
One of the main components of the Lake Forest Owners Association is the maintenance of the center median on Francisco.
Yeah.
And those that travel that roadway can see evidently that it looks pretty terrible right now. The reason for that is that Capitol, our lawn people refuse to work out there because of the speeding. And so they suggest if they're going to do anything, they're going to have to shut down and detour. So.
I didn't realize it got to that point, but
Yes, yeah.
you travel through there and you see, unfortunately, that's not wide enough to park a vehicle and easily get by at a reasonable speed. You have to really slow down, and if it's a wide truck, it's even tougher. And that was a county planning thing that I was involved with years ago. Said it should be 4 lanes, and no, we only need 2 lanes. And they put 2 schools in there. And it's busy.
But I will share that information, the specifics and the timeframes. Unfortunately, like you said, it's all over the board. And I've stood out there with the crossing guards, going back to the stop signs for Lake Forest, and I've witnessed, even with them there, even with another random stranger present watching them, they're blatantly, I'm not even talking about California stops, I'm talking about don't even slow down. And then unfortunately saying some pretty negative things to the crossing guards for just doing their job, which I don't like to see. So
What was CHP's response? You talked to Lieutenant Hatfield. Did they commit to being out there more?
I hasn't committed anything. I just basically gave him a heads up that I was going to come and present these numbers to the council. And I'm
Okay.
sure from my experience with the lieutenant, he's more than willing to help. So I will get him the specifics of them.
Are you going to get him this data here?
I will.
Okay. Because that would be the connection point I would try and make happen, but it sounds like you already have that pathway open.
But even with our school resource officer that lives in the community, it'd be helpful to have him on the stop signs as well, and just monitoring that speed, especially pick up and drop off times for the school kids out there, because it's pretty dangerous for them.
Talk to anybody in the sheriff's department. We have
I
a
have not.
newly elected sheriff that will take
Okay.
office in June. Able to provide some more resources. Help the CHP in that particular capacity.
I will certainly pursue that. Mainly, I just want to come in here and put it on the radar, make you all aware.
There was some things we could do immediately, but I don't know what they are. Speed
Speed
bumps and that sort of thing.
I realize that I won't get into that. I just, I'm willing to pay for some shocks instead of the price of a life.
I agree with you. So we'll have that deeper conversation, I'm hoping. Because I have seen several communities that do quite a bit of that on roads that are notorious for speeding. Roseville's got several streets that have got speed bumps about every, I'm gonna say 100 yards. Because I guess they had such a history of people trying to cut across and go that fast that they put those speed bumps in. But it's only one street and it's fairly short. It's not like Francisco Drive. So there's circumstances around a given site that always dictates whether you can or can't effectively do that, because for a fire engine to get through there, it would take some time. But it's a short stretch. So. you know,
Oh,
it's
we
not-
need to get CHP out there.
It's not in minutes, but, okay. Thank you. Thank you
Thank
for
you very
sharing
much.
with us, and, yeah, we'll follow. Officer Brown, the CHP is usually in attendance with us. I don't see him on yet. He may not be here this evening, but we'll make sure he gets a copy of this as well to kind of work it both ways, since he's kind of our local representative. But thanks again.
Thank
Dan.
you.
And do you mind emailing me that too, and I'll reach out to Officer Brown separately?
Absolutely.
Continue your path with what you're doing, but just
I will.
another connection point.
Okay, so, seeing no other public comments in the conference room, let's go to our Zoom participants with their hands up. Looks like Joel is first, right?
Yes.
Good evening, everybody. This is Joel Wiley in El Dorado Hills. First of all, let me say thank you for liberalizing the 3-minute time limit for public comments on our last speaker. That was very good. I have a little concern of something a little bit further north. First of all, I'd like to thank Mr. Martinez and everybody who got El Dorado Hills Boulevard paved. I came through there last night and found it very disconcerting with the oncoming traffic. It's difficult to see the few yellow tags that are in the middle of the street. And more importantly, there were none of them on the marking the right margin of the street, that when you're trying to look away from all of the headlights, it would be nice to see a couple of things that identify where the end of the road is and where the ditch begins. So until they get the thing paved, I would like to see a few of the white markers there. Let us know how we can stay out of the ditch when somebody's coming at us with their bright lights on. That's
Yeah,
about
thanks,
it.
Joel. Yep, and we've had several complaints that have been submitted, and we've talked to DOT, and we're actually going to cover that shortly under the infrastructure topic under leadership team report. So we'll give you a little bit of additional information that's been collected on what the situation is and when they expect to be able to finish that road section up. So that'll come later.
Great.
Thank
Thank
you. Mr. Raslier.
You unmute, John.
Okay. The question that I wanted to ask is the El Dorado Hills Senior Center, are they serving meals again? And if not, when will they start?
Okay, my understanding is they're not serving meals yet, and it's a TBD on when they will start. That was a function of having staffing sufficient to prepare the meals. One of the workarounds was to provide transportation from El Dorado Hills to Cameron Park. That's still an option, but I know that's not desirable. So the only thing I can commit is they are looking at how they can make that happen, but we don't have a time frame yet from Health and Human Services as to when they'll be able to pull the trigger on it and get started. So we can ask the question again, unless Cindy's seen something that I haven't seen.
You know, I just want to emphasize the fact that, you know, besides the nutritional value of the meals, the social value of people being able to sit and have what actually works out to be a dinner meal is very important. And I really think that this should be put up as a priority. It should no longer be that you can't send down meals from Placerville. So
I
that's,
understand.
you know, that's all I'll say on that, John.
Okay, we're continuing to work it, and I struggle with the fact we can't hire people to staff these positions, so I don't know how to make that easier. The vacancy rate in Health and Human Services is 20%. So across that organization, we're down 1/5 of our staffing. And unfortunately, the biggest portion of that are the lower paid jobs that you might imagine. And that's where these types of positions typically lie. So we're looking at, you know, making increases in pay and changing things, but none of that stuff happens fast. It all takes time. So we're trying, that's all I can tell you. And when we get an update, we'll certainly let everybody know.
Okay, thank you, John.
Yep. All right, I'm not seeing anyone else for public comment. So we'll close the public comment portion and we'll go to item 4, our guest speakers. And it's my privilege tonight to introduce Irene Muzio and Bonnie Bergstrom, who are with the Assistance League of the Sierra Foothills, and Wendy May is also part of the group, but she's not here with us this evening. And I understand both Irene and perhaps Bonnie will be doing the presentation. So I think Cindy has the slides. She's going to bring those up. And do you have a speaker back there? Do you have one of these? Okay. Or you can come up and use the microphone, whatever's most comfortable for you. Okay, that's perfect. Yeah, that'll work. Let's make sure it's working, Mike.
Not sure about those things. Okay, so thank you for having us, and I'll introduce myself. I'm Irene Muzio. I'm president of Assistance League Sierra Foothills, and this is Bonnie Bergstrom. She's president-elect. She takes over in June.
Oh, I see. Good program. Yeah.
So I wanted to tell you a little bit about what we do here in the community. So if you could advance to the next one, please. We actually service the entire county. So we go from El Dorado Hills all the way up into South Lake Tahoe. We're part of a national organization called Assistance League, and there are 22,000 members nationwide. We are a small chapter. We only have about 80 members here. We are a 100% volunteer organization. We have no paid employees. We were founded in 2008, and we just celebrated our 10th year as an actual charter of the National Assistance League. Go ahead. Thank you. I'm not going to read these out loud to you, but these are our mission, our vision, and our core values. It is what we're interested in doing is transforming the lives of seniors and youth in El Dorado County. And we have several programs to do so. We could go on, please. We're very proud of the diversity of our programs, by the way. A lot of organizations have one program, and they put all their efforts into that, but we have 6 specific and distinct programs. Operation School Bell is our biggest program. It's a program that every chapter of Assistance League across the country does. And what we do is we clothe children who are identified to be in need. We just finished our Operation School Bell month, and for that month, what we did is we work in collaboration with the local school districts. They identify the students who are in need, kindergarten through high school. We then set up shopping days, and we've been working primarily with Walmart to do so. They come in, we give them a voucher to buy clothes. The vouchers anywhere from $80 to $100. We just got finished clothing over 900 kids in our county. So it's a very rewarding program. When you see a little kid that comes up to you and says, "This is the first pair of shoes I really have my new shoes," it is just overwhelming. And what we do at the same time is that we give them a book. They get to select a book to take home. And again, many of them have never owned a book of their own. We live in a nice little sheltered community here. There's a lot of need in this community, and we try to make an outreach to those people. So our next program is Sports Locker, and what we do is work with the local sports organizations, and we provide scholarships to kids that otherwise wouldn't be able to play league sports. So that scholarship might be for the registration fee, it might be for cleats, it might be for, baseball shoes, whatever they need. Our next program is Books and Beyond. We go into 3rd grade classrooms, 2nd and 3rd, and we work with students who are having difficulty with reading comprehension. And the commitment is that our volunteers there every week to do that. And the growth of the kids is just amazing. We had one parent write to the teacher, and when the school year started, her son was 2 years behind. Couldn't read. And wrote and said, "I just want to tell you, he's sitting in this room reading a book. I never thought that would ever happen in his life." And And so that's thanks to some of our volunteers. Bags for Belongings is a program where we provide duffel bags for children who are, youth who are being displaced from usually, care homes, and oftentimes they have nothing to put their clothes in except a garbage bag. So we provide bags for that. Our Smile program is a local senior center where we go in once a month and we do a craft project or a social project with the seniors for socialization with them. We also have scholarship program. We give 2 types of scholarships. We give a community service scholarship, which seems very logical for our organization to do. But we also give a little bit of a different scholarship, which is for success of a student despite overcoming significant challenges in their lives. Last year, we gave a scholarship to a young woman who wants to go to beauty school. I think there's a better word for that nowadays. That isn't socially. Okay, I know beauty school, all of a sudden that sounded wrong coming out. And when our member there gave the award to this student at the school, someone stood up from the audience, a man, and said, I went to this high school and I have never seen anybody recognize these students. I'm going to match that scholarship. And he matched that scholarship, which was really heartwarming. He was a local police officer. And then occasionally we do special outreach programs. Last year, we raised money through the community for the Calder fire victims and provided a shopping experience for them again at Walmart, similar to what we do for Operations Football.
We raised $15,000 in less than 2 weeks just by reaching out to our own members in the community. But everybody knows somebody that was affected by the Calder fire, and the response was almost instantaneous. It was very hard.
Okay, if you can go on to the next one, please. How do we do it? Well, we have 80 volunteers that do the work. We apply for grants. We receive donations, and we ask for sponsorships. We have a supportive community and always looking to grow that community, obviously. And then if you go to the next one, 33% of our money is raised through fundraising. And our 2 significant ones you may have heard of is we have a garden tour in the spring, and coming up we have a Jingle Mingle, which is a food and wine and crafts kind of festival that's coming up on the 4th of December that will be held at the Cameron Park Community Center. So you can go to the next, please. So first, before I ask this question or answer this question, I should ask, do you have any questions for us on what we do?
Seems like a great program. I mean, obviously, the fact it's nationalized, that really helps, I'm sure.
It does. We do get support from our national organization. So how can you engage? This is our community. We all work here, we live here, we play here. We're looking for, obviously monetary support, come to our fundraisers, make donations. We also have needs for skills that we don't have within our own group of members. For example, currently we really have a need for an attorney with some understanding of nonprofit organizations and nonprofit law. Not that we need a lot of help, but we do have questions every so often. We'd like to have an expert that can help us with that. We're currently rewriting our bylaws. I need to have somebody look at those so that we know that they're correct for this approval to the state. We have a need for expertise in grant writing, and we have a need for an expertise in marketing, and specifically in graphics and layout. We have a little bit of, talent there, but we could certainly use some more. Those are just some real specific things. We're looking for members. Anyway, anyone wants to get engaged, be a volunteer at one of our fundraisers, one of our events. We welcome everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. So, leadership team, any questions or follow-up comments? I think it's a great program. I mean, I hope the community really supports it this year in particular, because it's been a tough year because of a lot of things. We not only had the Caldor fire,
we're still trying to recover from. For the very south, the very north end of the district, we had the mosquito fire. So that's another compounding thing. Fortunately, there weren't that many residents or people directly affected, but if you were one of those, it has a huge impact on your life, right? So
It does. It was pretty devastating, actually, to see those people come in when we held our event for them to go shopping and hear this. I mean, what happens with us in terms of fundraisers is, one of our biggest fundraisers has traditionally been homes for the holidays, where we have private homes open up and they're all decorated, and, you know, it's a really nice kickoff to the season. We haven't been able to do that since 2019 because of COVID. People are not willing, have not been willing to open up their homes, and people have been tentative to, you know, go into strategy situations. So that's why we're having the jingle jingle this year. But I'll tell you, we're sure hoping we're gonna have that homes for the holidays for next year. So if you know somebody that just loves to decorate their houses, we want to hear from you, okay?
Thank you.
Very good.
Irene, who should they, or how should they contact? What's the best way to contact?
Assistance League Sierra Foothills, we have a website. You can just go directly there, and there's contact information there.
We have some bookmarks that has our contact information and some more details about the program.
Perfect. Okay, so I can get that info out. Thank you.
thank you for being volunteers in our community. That's an important aspect of what keeps our community really going and being productive with a lot of programs that
You know,
help
when
people.
you spend your life working, you finally have a little bit of time to give back.
Yep.
You were fortunate. It's a blessing.
Yep. All right, thank you again. And with that, I guess the Friends of the Library, do we have any information on their fundraising we can share, Cindy?
We put it out on the social media.
Okay,
but,
do you have the actual information as to when their event was?
It just started at the beginning of, it was November 1st, and
So Claire and Jan, who were expected to be here, let us know that they were not going to be able to be here. So that kind of came late in the planning, but they have started their fundraising activity as well. And I can tell you, being a member of Friends of the El Dorado Hills Library for many years, it's a great organization as well. It serves kids by making sure that they have programs to learn and through the hub system and, you know, books, and that you work in that area as well. And there's nothing like books and kids and reading to them to start with, and then they grasp the fact that they want to read certain things on their own. And so it's a educational process as they mature, that they, you know, find pleasure in holding a book and reading it, and not just doing stuff on their devices. So I think that's an important balance that a lot of kids probably don't get these days, but trying to make sure that stuff happens. So we will include information in our minutes, so that if you would like to be an active participant in their fundraising as well, you know who to contact and how to go ahead and make an end of the year donation, or whatever that may amount to. So we'll put that in our minutes. So with that, and John Davy, would it be good to get your report now before we go to supervisor communications? Are you still there? I thought I saw.
I'm still there.
right.
If you want to take it out of order, that's fine. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Well, thanks everyone for being here tonight. I have a conflicting schedule at 7 o'clock tonight, so I'm first in line. Apparently I am someone. So to let everybody know, our APAC meeting for November was moved. The fire station was busy last week with elections and other bookings. So our meeting is tomorrow night right there, Station 85 in the executive conference room, and also streamed via Zoom like we're doing tonight. Our guest speaker will be the new fire marshal for El Dorado Hills Fire Department, Deputy Chief Fields, and she's going to have a discussion with us about the updated plan review system and fire department function and development review. And we're real excited about it because we haven't had the fire department make a presentation, I think, since 2017 or 18. So it's great to have them coming back. And I bothered the chief as soon as it was announced that she was hired, and I've been trying to get the time appropriate for her, and we're grateful for her to be participating tomorrow night. The other items on our agenda, some project updates. We have some small notices to update the community about. We have our proposed meeting schedule for 2023. It's consistently will be the second Wednesday of each month, but there's some minor details we'll want to talk about with our members and with our audience in attendance. And then the last item on our agenda tomorrow night will be the officer election slate for officers for the 2023 term for APAC. And again, the way we work is all through volunteers. So if you live in El Dorado Hills, guess what? You're a member of APAC. If you work on a project, you become a voting member of APAC. So we would love to have you come out tonight, tomorrow night, 6:30 p.m. right there in the fire station, either in person or you can stream virtually like we're doing tonight. So I appreciate everyone's time tonight, and it was great to hear the presentations earlier.
Thank you, John. Okay, with that, I'm going to jump back to item 5, supervisor communications, and some of these are going to go pretty quick as well. We have nothing new on the Central El Dorado Hills specific plan that's been received at the county to date. The development agreement team that the county has set up, which consists of our CAO, county council, director of transportation, director of planning building, and the auditor controller, has been told that the Parker Development Company would like to meet with them and start discussions relative to modifications of the development agreement that was presented at the Planning Commission meeting. So that has gotten started. To my knowledge, there hasn't been anything in formal writing that's been submitted. So that will come in the future. So there is some activity there, but nothing that I know of that in any detail, and nothing that can be shared with the public at this point. But once that draft, the second draft, if you will, of the development agreement has kind of been finalized, then that will become public information. And if Parker Development Company decides to bring it to the Board of Supervisors for review and a decision, then that will be scheduled. The best estimate we have is that would not occur before the middle of January. And rest assured that as soon as my office knows what that date is, that we will inform everyone who has sent us an email about their concerns with Central so that they get adequate notification of when that Board of Supervisors public hearing will occur. And we'll also give them information on the links to Legistar to go look up the reams of data that's out there between the draft DIR, the RDIR, and various other documents. There's a lot of material on this, as you might imagine, because it's been going on for like 6 or 7 years in earnest, and it's been going on even longer than that when you really look at when the first application was submitted. So that's about all I can say on that. Is there is some minimal activity, but nothing that can be reported. Again, on Costco, I've been told that there's modifications being made on the adjacent property where the Costco would be located, known as EDH 52, but nothing has been finalized there, and there has been no formal project submittal. So it just keeps moving out month to month, I guess, until they get to that point of reaching agreement. And the whole reason for the two entities being together is they wanted to do a combined CEQA, California Environmental Quality Act, the EIR, if you will. They wanted to do the EIR as one project since AKT owns the property. They want to sell to Costco or lease to them, one of the two. But they wanted to do the whole project and not piecemeal it. So that's what's been, in part, the delays that have occurred since the original announcements were made 2 years ago. So, long time. But third item here. Several complaints have been received about the county extension of the Beatty Drive closure. That's primarily due to rock removal and water seepage experienced by the developer. Adam Bain from our Department of Transportation provided details on the alternatives and the assessment recommendation. We're continuing to communicate with the residents up there that are affected by it. It's an unfortunate circumstance, but it's oftentimes encountered with construction in foothills where they do an estimate of how much rock removal and other things they'll have to do, and they significantly underestimate that effort. And it turns out a lot of the rock has to be hauled off the site. And it turns out that a lot of it cannot be dynamited out as they would typically do because there's infrastructure, i.e. EID already has water lines in there. So can't use dynamite, got to dig it out one rock at a time, and that takes a lot longer. So there's a number of compounding issues, but the extension of the time frame to get that finished that the Board of Supervisors granted was through the end of this calendar year. And we're continually working with the developer and the contractor to see if they can somehow accelerate that, get more staff on it, whatever, to the best of their ability. So we have high hopes that they will actually finish before the end of the calendar year. But rain days are always a big variable. And we had one pretty good heavy duty rain day. So hopefully we'll be able to make up that time and finish as proposed or as amended. So that's about all I have on that one. Also, I just wanted to recognize Daniel Del Monte, who is our Chief Assistant Director of the County Health and Human Services for, I think, 3 years now, or 2 years, something like that, 2+ years. He's resigned his position effective on the 11th of November, and he's taken a position with Marin County as the Deputy CAO. And we just wanted to thank Daniel for his 5 years of total service to El Dorado County. He's been very instrumental in the EDOC COC, our El Dorado Opportunity Knox Continuum of Care activity. And he's been very involved with planning and working with the various developers and project leads that can get our temporary shelter built and operating. Actually, temporary shelter is built, but getting it operational and then coming back and building a more permanent shelter facility with up to 60 beds. That's what's planned. So Daniel was a big help in all of that, but he has a career opportunity that he can't pass up. So he's taken that, and there's been discussions as to whether that direct position will be filled or it'll be modified based upon a reorganization, because we have hired a new Director of Health and Human Services who's kind of looking at that whole perspective of what is the right organization to have it structured and be effective in these many areas. So Evelyn Schaefer by name, and we'll see what Evelyn comes up with, and then we'll go ahead and adjust accordingly to that. And 2 more of the county CAO recruitment efforts continue. We've received 3 additional applications that went through panel reviews last week, as I understood it. So I've not seen the results of that yet. And those will be reported in closed session to the Board of Supervisors tomorrow. Because obviously when you're redoing recruitment, a lot of people don't want their current boss necessarily to know that they've applied for another job. That could compromise their current situation, so that's kept confidential at their request. And then once selection's been made, then it's announced, and obviously they have to let their current employer, if that's the situation, know if they're leaving like Daniel did, and everything transitions. So still working on that. I'll tell you, it is a difficult recruitment because there's like 8 other counties that are also trying to recruit the similar CAO or CEO position at this point. Out of the 58 counties in California, there's like 8 of them trying to recruit for the same talent pool that we're trying to recruit to. So that may be an extended recruitment when it's all said and done, but we're trying to keep it moving and see if we can't find that right applicant that's out there that we can go ahead and make the selection and move on, but it may be a while. Last thing I just want to mention is Housing El Dorado is working with the Placerville Upper Room to provide an early winter homeless sheltering until the county facility opens on or about January 15th. So that's next year, obviously. So that's in work. I don't know much more in terms of the details. I know they've been working with a particular church, but the last time I talked to them, they weren't willing to announce it. But my guess is with the weather turning cold, they will be making that announcement pretty quick and getting that up and operating. So our homeless won't be completely devoid of access to a sheltering facility for a limited number of people here, hopefully in the very near term. But January 15th or thereabouts is when we hope to open up the old juvenile hall up on the county campus to be able to house up to 60, probably more like 40. If you do triple bunking, that sort of thing, I've been told you can get 60, but more typically 40 homeless could be sheltered there at one point in time with the wraparound navigation.
I need to come in. I need to come in and get some of your big.
Okay, yeah. Navigation center and skills provided by various resources that are out there, including the county. But the plan is for the Volunteers of America to do the staffing. We have a contract with them. I know they're recruiting people, and we're trying to work out all the details for the memorandum of understanding and get that in place hopefully by the middle of December so that we can truly open in the middle of January. So there's a lot of activity there. So with those various items, are there any questions from either the leadership team or anyone, any member of the public? Okay, not seeing any. Let's move on to our leadership team progress reports. We always start with public safety, and I don't believe we have either our Sheriff's Department or CHP with us this evening. Is that correct? All right, so we'll move on to the El Dorado Hills Fire Report.
Yes, so, yes, thank you. So again, Michael Anthony, Deputy Chief with El Dorado Hills Fire Department. The rain has been welcome for us, definitely putting pretty much an end to fire season, at least up here locally. Burning's reopened with permits right now. So definitely appreciating seeing the rain come, and we were ready for that. All in all, I think California did pretty well this year as far as fire season goes. And we did have the mosquito fire locally here, but from a statewide perspective, the number of acres burned was way, way down. So there was a good year for that, and we're pleased to see the rain come. The other great thing we have coming is the Santa Run is back December 6th through the 9th. We do have the routes posted here shortly. Within the next week or so, we'll be putting up banners at each of the Santa stops, so you know what day and what night we're coming. Or you can go on EDH Fire and take a look at those routes. But we will be ending this year on Friday, December 9th at District Church up on Rossmore. It's pretty fun. We hear Santa's a pretty good ice skater, so they have that ice rink up there. It's a great setting, and we're looking forward to that. So, and just as a reminder, it's a food and a toy drive for us. That's one of the main purposes of it. I mean, we enjoy the holiday cheer, but we are collecting toys for Shriners this year, Shriners Hospital for Children, which is a great thing to be able to support, and then the El Dorado County Food Bank for food that's being donated. So bring your food and toys, stop by our stop, see Santa, and maybe end with us at District Church, and you can try your ice skates on. That's the end of the report.
Sounds like a great activity, yeah, sounds good. And that's 4 nights this year?
4 nights, yeah, 4 nights, Tuesday through Friday.
Yeah, so it's a major event, and it takes a lot of coordination, so thanks to all the firefighters and the volunteers and everybody else that make that happen every year, because it's a huge undertaking.
It is, but it's fun.
Thank you for that. We'll move on to economic development. Glenn Krakow, who's our Community Economic Development Advisory Committee member, was not able to be with us this evening, but I understand they were not able to hold their meeting yesterday because of a lack of a quorum. And for those of you who know what a quorum means, if you have 7 members on a board, it means 4 of them have to be there to be able to take action. And I think they may have, is it 7 or 9? I think it's 7. With respect to the CDAC. They've got the 2 at large, right. So they weren't able to reach a quorum, so we really have no report on that, but as soon as they do meet, we'll give you an update. I will tell you that one of their most recent activities was providing input on the hemp ordinance. That the Board of Supervisors went ahead and approved a pilot program for growing hemp in El Dorado County. And both CDAC and the Ag Commission were very involved with researching and talking to various people and helping basically shape the criteria that's within the ordinance to make sure that we got safety, public safety considerations, we got notifications considerations. We dealt with things like odor. A lot of different things were addressed in the way that draft ordinance was put together, and it wouldn't have been as complete and thorough if it hadn't been for those 2 voluntary committees and commissions. So kudos to them for their hard work in supporting that hemp ordinance. Infrastructure. This is, I was hoping that we would be able to get somebody from DOT or John Vaney would be able to talk to this, but he had another kind of an emergency situation this evening. So I will tell you what I understand of it. As we all know, El Dorado Hills Boulevard has 2 phases of the completion in terms of the resurfacing, I'm going to call it resurfacing. One is the north end, which has happened here recently, like Green Valley Road, all the way up to, what is it, Cast Crown, but I don't remember exactly where it stops. That's the first section. Then next year, they're going to do the second section, which goes all the way past Saratoga, or to Saratoga. In parallel with that, there was an improvement made for the Saratoga area interchange, where they actually ground out all of the old asphalt, resurfaced it, put in new base, recompacted everything, and basically made that section a brand new roadway because of the high average daily traffic counts on it. There's a lot of traffic that goes through that El Dorado Hills Boulevard, Saratoga, the entrance to Rayleigh's, the entrance to Highway 50 section of road. So that whole area was redone in terms of the roadway quality. So it is very high in terms of the pavement condition index in that section. The other resurfacing that's been done will not get to that same level, but it's not finished yet. The final thing that has to happen now is the slurry seal coat needs to be put on. And before they can put the slurry seal coat on, the temperatures have to get into the 60-degree range. They have to have enough drying that happens of the asphalt from our rains in order to make that bond occur with the seal coat. So commitment that I've heard is by the middle of this week, i.e. Wednesday, that they hope to have all of that finished. So that seal coat would be down, then shortly after that, the restriping would occur. So we're at the end game, so to speak, of when that roadway will be complete. But we recognize it has been hazardous without the striping. But as you might imagine, that striping is very expensive to do. They have to schedule a machine, comes in and puts it down. It's the kind of thing you don't do 2 or 3 times in the middle of a road project. So they put what I call the tabs out there with the reflectors to try to help people navigate. When I talked to our DOT director on Monday, last Monday, I basically, last Wednesday, I think it was, I told him that, you know, I was getting a lot of complaints because people couldn't see enough to navigate in the daytime or at night. And I was told they went out there and replaced some of the tabs that had been knocked off. They put in some additional ones. But obviously, as Joel reported tonight, it's not enough to really get us back to the same level of safety. But it was never intended to be that, I guess. But I'm hoping there's a lesson learned here. That when you do a project like that in an area like El Dorado Hills, we have to go the extra mile of making sure that we put enough tabs out there that road lane delineation is clear day or night. But anything short of having to stripe it and then go back out and restripe it after the slurry coat's down. So that's, I think, the lessons learned. And I don't know how many resurfacing projects DOT has had in the recent history here that have had the same travel patterns and stuff that El Dorado Hills has. And typically, they're roads that are used a lot less, which makes it a little easier and not without as many lane changes and other things going on. So I think this one was kind of all right, we learned from this. We want to make sure that isn't repeated when they do the second portion of El Dorado Hills Boulevard all the way up to where the current repaving, resurfacing was done. So that's kind of what I understand of it. And with that, I'll go ahead and open it up for any questions anybody may have on that. So hopefully we're done by Wednesday with the paving, with the slurry coat, and then we'll be able to get it restriped shortly after. So I'm actually hoping by the end of the week, if the weather holds, that we can have all that finished up, but no promises. All right, very good. So I'm not seeing any questions from anybody right now. So we'll move on to good governance, and Dick was not able to be with us this evening, but he did provide, Richard Ross, or Dick Ross, is our good governance report. So he did provide this information, the charter review. First of all, he gave scope. The committee considers and proposes changes to the county charter to the Board of Supervisors. The Board of Supervisors can place on a ballot proposed changes, and if approved by a majority of the voters, they become the law of the county. The committee serves without compensation. So it's a volunteer group like El Dorado County uses in so many different capacities, who are doing their best to try to listen to the Board of Supervisors inputs, all the public inputs, and then put something together as a proposal to the board ultimately. The committee meets in public on the second Monday of the month, and unless otherwise noticed, in the Board of Supervisors chambers at 5 p.m. So it's second Monday of the month, 5 p.m. in the Board of Supervisors chambers. Meetings are listed on the El Dorado County government job site, Legistar, and the public may attend in person or by Zoom. They had a whole bunch of things submitted on June 4th by the Board of Supervisors. There were 6 specific things that the board at the board meeting suggested. One was to look at conflicting charter and county ordinance rules regarding Civil Service Commission member selection procedures. The second was the 3rd consecutive term for Board of Supervisors members exclusive of sitting supervisors. So to go from 2 successive terms to 3, but to exclude anybody who's currently on the board. So nobody would benefit who's currently an elected supervisor from that extension. Term limits for elected department heads, including the recorder clerk, auditor controller, surveyor, treasurer, tax collector, assessor, sheriff, and district attorney. Since the only term limits that are in the charter right now are those for the Board of Supervisors, none of the other electeds, and 3 of those are defined by state law that must be elected, and the other 4 in El Dorado County were established by charter. So we're looking at term limits, consolidation of certain elected offices, Stagger the election cycles of 5 offices excluding the sheriff and district attorney presently fixed by law. And I do know that the Taxpayers Association of El Dorado County had a meeting with 3 of the elected officials present this morning to talk about some of the pluses and minuses of that. And so that information is out there if you want to listen to what their information is. They record their meetings and are available as well. And then consider increasing the Board of Supervisors from 5 members to 7 members, reconfiguring the county into 7 districts. The idea of that is you'd get better representation from 7 sitting members as opposed to 5. The other side of that is it's hugely expensive and it's oftentimes difficult to get 5 people to come to some level of agreement that they can vote on as opposed to 7. So the only Board of Supervisors I'm aware of in the whole state of California that has more than 5 members is San Francisco. And San Francisco is a combined county and city by their jurisdiction, and I believe they have 9 elected board members for the city/county of San Francisco. So that's the one exception I'm aware of in the whole state that has more than 5. So this is what the charter committee is supposed to do. So the committee is currently soliciting public comments regarding charter revision issues above or others to be considered. And the recent thing, the Board of Supervisors agenda for tomorrow proposes accepting the resignation of the committee member from District 4, Bill Carey, and the appointment of a new committee member, Laurel Brentbaum, as the District 4 replacement. So that's for tomorrow's decision. I wouldn't anticipate anything other than that the appointment and the approval. The committee, by October the 11th, invited the views of elected officials as to matters affecting their offices. As of November 14th, which is a month after that, basically, the recorder clerk, Janelle Horn, responded in writing and has attended prior committee. She was the only one that submitted anything in writing. So that was the message there. I think that's it. The next committee meeting is at 5 p.m. on November the 14th. So yeah, tomorrow. Well, excuse me, it's running in parallel with this meeting because it was 5 p.m. Correct. So they're having their charter review committee meeting as we speak, probably, because typically they run an hour and a half to 2 hours. So that's your volunteer committee at work. If you have any questions or contacts, we can certainly get you information as to how to contact our representative or the clerk of the board to get that information to the charter review committee. Okay, perfect. All right. Healthy communities, we already reported that Kathy Guerrero will be joining us soon. So nothing more on that. Youth Commission report, so we've started adding that, and Lauren hopefully will be joining us next month, I think, right?
Yes.
And that takes us down to Cindy's report on community information and outreach.
Zipping through tonight. Well, we're having a lot of stuff coming up, which is exciting for the holidays. Starting November 25th through December 24th in El Dorado Hills Town Center, they're having their annual, it's called Elf on the Boulevard scavenger hunt. It's kind of that elf on the shelf, but they hide them throughout all the businesses in Town Center. And kids go and they try and find them and they fill out their little forms. And when they finish finding all the elves, then they can hand it in for some prizes. So I called the Town Center today and they said that all the details on that will be up on their website in a couple of days. So I'll attach that to the minutes. Starting December 1st through the 15th, there's going to be letters to Santa. The El Dorado Hills CSD is doing that. Kids can drop off their letters to Santa. They can either be mailed or deposited in the holiday mailbox at the El Dorado Hills CSD Pavilion. December 2nd, there's Cookies with Santa at the El Dorado Hills CSD Gym. And that's 4 to 6 p.m. And then the next morning, there's breakfast for Santa. There's 2 different times for that, from 8 to 9:15 or 10 to 11:15. And on December 3rd is the El Dorado Hills Town Center, the annual Christmas tree lighting. That's from 4 to 8 p.m. in Town Center. The first 300 kids, they can pick up, they give them stockings at the California Welcome Center. And then they can go around to the businesses, and businesses have little treats for the kids to put in their stockings, which is a super fun event. And then for the adults, they're also gonna have treats and drinks and stuff too. So it's a big event. And then at the end, I think, isn't that when Santa and Mrs. Claus come in the fire truck? And then they do the big tree lighting. So it's an awesome event. And then starting also on December 3rd, they're going to do those evening carriage rides, both on Friday and Saturdays at the Hills Town Center. Fridays from 6 to 9, and then Saturdays are from 5 to 9. And then Chief Lilienthal already talked about December 6th through 9th, the El Dorado Hills Fire Department Santa Run Holiday Heroes Toy and Food Drive. And starting a little bit different times each day from 5 something to around 7 or something.
Around 5 o'clock.
So we posted that on our social media, but I can also attach that information on that with the minutes. And then finally, on December 22nd, they're having a menorah lighting at El Dorado Hills Town Center in the Stephen Young Amphitheater from 6:30 to 8. They're going to have songs and food and drinks. So lots coming. And all this information will be on Supervisor Heidal's website on the calendar.
Thank you, Cindy. And Chief Lou, going back, you mentioned to me there was an accident on Eldorado Boulevard. It was a pedestrian in a car. Can you just give us a little bit? I don't want to be remiss in not saying something's happened out there because.
No, there's been at least one vehicle accident with a rollover. You'd have to check with CHP to determine the exact cause of what they concluded, but it's in that area of the repaving.
Yeah.
And then there was a pedestrian who was struck by a vehicle, sustained some moderate to serious injuries. But again, you'd have to check with the CHP report for the final determination of the cause of both of those. But in the area of the repaving. And I would say we did communicate as well to DOT the importance of getting some at least better temporary measures on El Dorado Hills Boulevard, even for the fire engines and our staff. I mean, it's a very dangerous situation right now. And we did convey that message to them, I know with you, and appreciate that. And I think that, like you said, lessons learned for them. Hopefully they'll, kind of, we go to a fire, we look at it afterwards and say, what do we do great? What do we need to get better on? And I hope they do the same.
So Cindy, would you make a note to follow up with Officer Brown and see if we can't have him present? Provide that to the public. I think it's only fair that we understand what were the circumstances and what did they attribute the cause to? Because if it was truly lack of proper visibility and that sort of thing, as opposed to excessive speed and inattentiveness in driving, then that's definitely the thing that we need to make sure doesn't happen again with respect to DOT's requirements of the contractor who does that work. Very good. Thank you for that. Okay, any go-backs? Anybody on the leadership team have a go-back this evening? I'm not seeing any. Oh, that's good. So our next meeting, we're going back to our first Monday of the month type meeting time frame. So it'll be Monday, December the 5th, right here in the same location. Next month's guest speaker will be Janelle Horn, and she is our county recorder and clerk. And she's going to give us an update on her office service improvements and plans for the future. Wendy and I benefited from being able to take a tour with Janelle through her office and looked at how she has totally revamped that office, made it much more efficient in its layout, has got a lot of organization going on with the way that they store records and an ongoing activity. So that has been a major step forward in terms of things that needed to get done in that office. And she has been very active in accomplishing those things. So kudos to her and her team for all that work. I think it's a much more appealing and pleasant place when you walk into it, and efficient. And they have a number of computers with monitors sitting right there that you can enter your data in real time, as opposed to having to have somebody else do it for you. But if you want somebody to do it for you, you can, but the convenience is there. You don't have to bring a laptop or try to use your phone. They have obviously full-size screens and the computer set up. So it is a nice looking layout, and I would encourage anybody who has a chance to get up to the county offices once in a while to just stop into her office and say hi and take a look at it, because she has done substantial changes, made substantial changes, and all for the betterment, I think, of the community service part of it. So
Beautiful place for weddings now too.
yeah. So she has this special area they've set aside, since the recorder clerk is often asked to perform weddings when the need arises. And it turns out any elected official can perform weddings. So there's a number of people that can perform those services for the state of California. But the wedding licenses and stuff obviously go through the county. So it's convenient to have this small little chapel type setup that they have there, and the communication connections and other things. So she has made great strides to make that an appealing place if you don't have any other place to go to get married, and make it an enjoyable experience as opposed to just standing out in the hallway or something. So
She had made a lot of them on 2/22/22.
yes,
Lots of them.
yeah, after Valentine's Day, right? So. All right, with that, I think we stand adjourned. So thank you again for your patience, your participation. Appreciate all the inputs, and we'll follow up with you, Dan, and see what we can do there. Yes, happy Thanksgiving to everyone.